Good afternoon. My name is Josh Martin. I'll be going over the Husky oil refinery explosion that occurred in Superior, Wisconsin, April 26, 2018. 2018, the Husky refinery explosion was one of those industrial incidents that really hits home if you've ever worked around fuel, pressure systems, or process piping. Catastrophic failure occurred in the refinery's fluid catalytic cracking unit, or FCC, during a scheduled shutdown. A worn slide valve allowed air to pass into the area where hydrocarbons were present, creating an explosive mixture. That explosion injured 36 workers and forced the evacuation of over 2,500 residents due to the nearby presence of hydrogen fluoride. I've identified 6 safety system factors: transient operation safeguards, process knowledge, process safety management systems, industry knowledge and guidance, brittle fracture during extreme events, and emergency preparedness. Transient operation safeguards. The maintenance operation that was taking place was a manual shutdown and relied on 2 slide gates to seal off the air from the hydrocarbons. And as you can see, one of those slide gates was severely worn and wasn't the proper valve to isolate this kind of system. Process knowledge. The FCC expertise was in-house only. Little outside expertise to give guidance on best practices. Keeping the refrigeration tank at a higher pressure than the reactor, and that's noted down here. Always keeping the regeneration pressure a couple of pounds higher than the reactor pressure. Not sufficient knowledge to realize that this practice was unsafe, and provide updated training on these activities and processes. Recommended to develop and implement a technology sharing / best practice among American refineries. Number 3 is process safety management systems that ID, evaluate, and control hazards. They did not include the operating manual. They didn't include the ID of hazards for transient operations or how to control them. Not technically evaluated. No training to shut down safely, and the recommendation to OSHA was to develop guidance documents for performing hazardous analysis on operating procedures to address transient operation hazards with respect to PSM covered processes. Number 4, industry knowledge and guidance. Explosion occurred less than 1 year after California ExxonMobil explosion that had a very similar failure mode. Instead of air going into the hydrocarbons, it was hydrocarbons making its way into the air. Failed to recognize the potential for their facility to have similar issues publicly. Technical documents on safe operations of FCC units that is applicable to new and old units. As you can see in the bottom, there's some missing pressure transducers that would have allowed them to monitor the system better. Number 5, brittle fracture during extreme events. Multiple initiation sites were observed. No evidence of pre-existing cracks. And fractured tend to initiate at welded attachments or seams. So the 2 tanks that exploded did so in a catastrophic event method where it just fragmented and led to the puncture of the asphalt tank. New construction and materials that are required for tanks like this would have had the ductile or fish mouth ruptured, still would have ruptured, but it wouldn't have had the projectile causing secondary damage. Here's a picture of the asphalt tank as it was ruptured and spilling 17,000 barrels of asphalt out into the area. And number 6 is emergency preparedness. HF storage tank was approximately 150 foot from the 2 tanks that did explode, 50 foot closer than the asphalt tank that was punctured by the debris. Of course, 17,000 barrels of leaked asphalt were not treated as flammable liquid. That would have helped with the rescue effort and putting, not allowing that to be such a big fire. And it also caused 2,500 citizens to be evacuated in a whole town of Duluth because of the risk of an HF exposure. And here's a better picture of what their 10-mile affected area looks like if they would have had an HF event. And the overall cost of this safety system failure, 36 injured workers, 2,500 evacuated, Superior residents, the shelter-in-place order for Duluth, which caused disturbance to the daily activities of those folks in those towns. 39,000 pounds of flammable hydrocarbon vapors released into the air. $550 million in damages to the refinery. It was also shut down for over 4 years, and they consider this a serious near miss with the HF release.